Welcome to the Blue Collar Success Podcast, the top podcast dedicated to local business and industry. I'm your host, Jacob Lewis. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to us. The links to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are in the description below. Today, I've been blessed to have with me Jason Bryant, and today we're going to talk about personal development in the personal development industry. Jason has blessed us with his office today, as you can notice the awesome background. And so let's get right into it, Jason. First thing I always like to ask is a little bit of background about the business owner. He's the founder and president of New Era Thinking Group LLC, personal development company out of the Tampa Bay area. So, Jason, thanks for being on. Thanks for taking the time, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So St. Pete native, so we're right here in my hometown.
Yep.
Grew up here, seen the changes in it, and I'm 36 years young, and oldest of four siblings. So they my siblings call me brother dad. So just kind of like that lets you know kind of the relationship that we have.
Yes.
And I'm a little bit of what some people would call like a double dipper.
Okay.
I work in the corporate world and I also have my business, which is where we are right now.
Okay.
And I do my business part-time and I do full-time into the business, the corporate world. And one of the things that I've learned, I've kind of found like my niche, if you may, of doing both, where I think now we're in the world where like everybody kind of does more than one thing, I would say. Like even you.
Everybody
like,
has
right?
that side hustle.
Yeah, so it's just like, how do you like kind of create a life?
Mm-hmm.
How do you develop yourself in a manner so that you can kind of do those things, support it without losing yourself into the, getting lost in the sauce, basically.
Absolutely.
So, so that's kind of, where I am with the business side and who I am, the personal development part, which is why we're sitting here. And I have to say that I'm really just focused on becoming a better me and showing other people how they can do it too, because I don't feel like I have it all figured out.
Sure.
That's just kind of my thing. And just kind of growing up South St. Pete, being like a true statistic, like I said, and then finding my way into the corporate world.
Mm-hmm. Now, explain to our listeners and our viewers what you mean by the true statistic.
True statistic meaning never met my biological dad, being an African American man in the United States. I mean, you name it, that was like me, that type of thing. Growing up in, a bad neighborhood, all that stuff. So it was like, I found a way. And not saying that everyone always has that opportunity, but I realized that I did, and I started focusing on it. And I realized that if I could do it, someone in a completely different, better situation could definitely do it. So that's kind of where I've kind of been with it, where the business New Era Thinking is really about, because when I got in the business world, people were like, hey, you got to be cutthroat. You got to, look out for yourself, that type of stuff. And don't get me wrong, that stuff is true to a capacity. But I always felt like there was an abundance and that I could kind of be like that bridge between kind of the haves and the haves not, if you may. Like kind of almost like Robin Hood.
Yes,
basically,
yeah.
I feel like take the information from there and, kind of bring it to the people who need it.
Because that cutthroat mentality, that's old era thinking.
It is. It really is, because, the good old boys club, and don't get me wrong, I think there's some things that we can learn, because the good old boys, they've done a lot of big business, they've done a lot of big deals, and they've impacted a lot of people's lives in a positive way. Let's be, frank about that. When you think about, I'll just say even in the United States of America, how our whole country was built, the railroads and, stuff like that. And a lot of it was built off of like slavery and stuff like that. But it's like, when you look at what it was and the mindset of like taking multiple people and putting them into like, one place to say, okay, we're going to create this thing, this city,
working for a greater cause, but also working towards a unseen goal.
Exactly. That's like vision, and that's basically what personal development is to me.
Okay.
And anyone who studies a lot of the people that I'm sure all of us have, right? The Grant Cardones, the Jim Rohns and the John Maxwells and, the Eric Thomases, all these people, right? They all have this commonality where they worked on themselves. And that was like my thing. I realized like, man, if you work on yourself, you can actually obtain all these goals. and stuff like that. And I was like, man, once I realized it worked for me, and I was like, man, how can I share this with other people and help other people? Because I know it worked. So I was like, how do I share this with other people and create other success stories?
Awesome.
So that was kind of my connection.
So let's back up a little bit. Tell us more about what got you into corporate America, what you did in corporate America, and then we'll start talking about New Era Thinking.
I like it. So, corporate America. So, out of college, I got into the mortgage boom. Mortgage boom tanked. I didn't really have a plan, but I did really well in it. Right? I wasn't thinking long term with it, and it kind of pushed me into the corporate world. And I realized I had this like niche of people, right, where I keep to myself.
Your network.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that. Like I actually genuinely, have an interest in people and understanding myself, let alone other people. And I found out like, man, I can kind of be into like leadership in the corporate world. So I started doing that stuff from a project management perspective. Handling projects. Use that's like implementing new things in a business and stuff like that. So I started kind of getting into it. I was like, oh man, I do this in my sleep. You know what I mean? Like,
that's awesome.
It's because it like literally, and they pay well, and it's like, oh man, this is kind of cool because I get to like help people get what they want, impact other people because you interact with so many people. You're in this like unofficial role of authority, if that makes sense, because you're like for that project, and it just like turned into this thing. I was like, oh man, like I'm good at helping things get done. So I found my niche. Like I was consulting for a few years. And I realized that I really had this thing for working with people and getting things done. So that's what I started kind of working with. And that landed me with New York Life, which is like, Fortune 100 company. They're a big company and stuff like that. And I've learned so much there. And I have to, make sure I attest basically every year that I have my business. So it makes me focus on small businesses because of what I do. I can't really work with big businesses. So the New York Life thing has kind of worked into like, I handle all the basically third party agreements for a certain division within the organization, and it's like different third parties and stuff like that, so it's kind of representing them, and they've been around for 200 years.
So you're helping represent the small mom and pop shops a lot.
Sometimes, and that's the thing, because they're a big business, they're kind of getting to a point where they don't, we don't really necessarily want to work with, those, because that's where it gets in like the branding, what we were talking about earlier, like who represents you, who you're interacting with, basically. And so I learned a lot there. And it's made me kind of really get into like a different niche in the corporate world, where there's definitely executors and you have to work with a lot of people. But it's like I found like my thing is that at the end of the day, the corporate world is made of people, and I think that's why I kind of gravitate to it, because it's like I said, I have a knack for the thing, for like the understanding of how we operate. What do we need to do, especially when there's like big dollars and stakes at large.
So painting the picture, expressing that dream is what you would say you're really good at.
And honestly making it happen. I think that's the next thing. Like a lot of people can paint pictures. Yeah. To be honest with you, there's a lot of artists out here and visionaries and stuff like that. My niche has been executing and implementing. Okay. And that's what I try to share with as many people as I can, because results is the name of the game, really. If you can say, you can set whatever goals, you can have whatever on your vision board, and it's about what can you verify, towards the end of the year. And I think that's been like my niche.
Awesome.
That's been my niche. It's been fun too to watch other people like kind of go through that process too. Like, man, this was just a thought, and then it turned into like, oh, it's a plan, and then it turned into like, oh man, this thing is here.
So you've gotten to see people go from basically zero to this big business, or at least this good sized business. Yeah, that like, it meets like whatever their dream was and stuff like that. So that's kind of what it's been. And now the business has been established for 7 years now. And even though I do it on the side, I still put myself into it. So, a lot of the community events around here that I take a part in, our events, our workshops and stuff like that, I pour myself into it to genuinely give other people that kind of thing while I'm still pursuing my stuff, because I know that I'm, in a different situation than a lot of other people. So I try to make sure that obviously I capitalize on it, right, but also in the interim, I share what I can
to other people that might be interested. Because I feel like that's what was the difference was for me, where someone opened up to me and they saw something in me and they shared that information. They felt comfortable sharing that information.
And you want to pass that along to
Oh,
everybody.
absolutely. Yeah,
it's like you were saying earlier, and a little off camera, how it's cutthroat and keeping the knowledge to yourself.
That was what started kind of New Era, because it was like everyone was like, man, if you want to be in business, you got to be cutthroat. You got to be this. Hold it to yourself. Keep your knowledge. And I agree with some aspects of that.
Okay.
But I believe in abundance. I feel like I could share something with someone, and that's not going to take from me. I have other skills. I'm not gonna run out of ideas. I'm not gonna, like, that's why I'm okay. That's why I do like even some of my Facebook posts and Instagram posts is like, I'll give some information, because it's like, look, man, here, somebody go do something with that. If I leave here tomorrow, go do something with it. It's not gonna take anything from me. Right. And I kind of feel like an obligation to share it, to be honest with you. But I've also found a way to control it so I can monetize it too, because that is, Herb and I were just talking, like, that's intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your art, that's your thing, you know what I mean? So I found a way to find that line. And sometimes people get like blessed with more than they probably paid for. But I'm okay with that, because it's like, you go with the mood, man. And just like when you get to meet your favorite celebrity, and I was like, you know what, go ahead, let's take this picture, and I'll even embrace you, like, you get like, it's like those type of opportunities. So I've learned to kind of embrace those a lot more than I think I've ever had, especially now that I always joke about I'm like a C-level celebrity in St. Pete, right? Where I have a pretty good network. I'm from here, and I've been in a lot of different circles, and so it's like kind of almost everywhere I go, like I'll recognize a face, or a face will recognize me, but it's not like people are trying to like rush up, like, oh, let me take a picture with you, which I don't want. just for clarity, the goal is to be the millionaire next door, man. Like,
That's
just
awesome.
be able to chill, do what I want to do, hang out with my family, relax, that type of stuff. But I know I have like the brain capacity and skills, and I've been blessed with certain experiences and knowledge, resources, the list goes on, to do exceptional things that can impact other people.
That's awesome.
So,
and I think that the two keys for you and for a lot of people like you is, number one, you're self-aware. You know what you're good at, what you can work on, and all of us can always work on something.
That's the fun part.
And then two, you care. You have a true want to care and share to help make people better, and I think that's awesome. So take us through. So you were in project management, and you still are in project management, and then come 2012, you said, hey, I know a direction that I want to go in. So tell me about the transition.
Absolutely.
What made that light bulb turn on, and how you got started.
No, that's good. Good question too, because a lot of people don't really care about that. So backing up, man, wow. So that was a transitional point in my life. That was truly a pivot, in my life, where I got exposed to what personal development is. I don't think I really.
How'd you get exposed to that?
So I actually got into, I was with one of my mentors / friends, who's like basically an internet mogul type guy, Cedric Harris. We got into network marketing.
Okay.
And this was during the VoIP era. So it was like we had, reps everywhere. We would go to Atlanta, Georgia live. We got there like every week. And we started going to these leadership courses, and because these guys are like, they're like big business guys, self-made, millionaires. So the trainings that they go to are not like my little workshops that they're spending $10,000-$20,000 per pop.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to be like a +1 on a lot of those.
Oh, that's cool.
At 20 years old, so it's like, wow, right? So then 20, 23, 25. So I was like, man, I realized the light came on. It's like, oh, so I got exposed to Jim Rohn, those types of people. So I'm like, becoming, basically addicted to it, because it's like you see the results, you can see like, oh man, I didn't know.
Sure.
And when you're a true student of it, that once you see those videos and those words hit you, it's different, and it's not just like an aha moment, it's an action moment too. So it's like, oh man. So for me, I realized, so some of my friends describe me as very cerebral.
Okay.
So it's like I have a lot of logic, more logic than emotion. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
So that's
Fair
a gift
enough.
and a curse. Gift because I can lock in, I can get something, I can like concentrate my energy just like anyone else can. Just like when people have the strength to somehow lift up a car, I focus that on my goals and my mind strength. And I started focusing on that, and I realized that I had that type of thing, you know. And then it turned into like this whole thing where here I am now, 12 years later, of continuous, you know, refreshers, going to like more courses, workshops, getting a coach, having a mentor, those types of things. And it led me into like, oh wow, like you can do this thing. You know, what is that? It's like people. So that was my thing. That was my, like I said, 2007, 2008, that's when I found out about personal development.
Okay.
And that's when I really started, okay, so what does that mean? Okay, by 35 at that time, I was writing. At 35, I envision having this, or I should be doing this, or these are the types of things. And then I just reverse engineered it and just said, okay, what do I need to do to become that type of person? Is really what it was. You know, what is that type of person that makes that type of income? You know, what do they do? And that's why I kind of have this up here. You go through like the phases.
Yes, and I do want to go through the phases, and but before we do that, talk to me about starting New Era Thinking. Was it all you, just going through and starting it all yourself and saying, hey, I can help people this way? Or did you have people come to you and say, hey, you're really good at this, you should do this? Or hey, can you help me with this because I'm all over the place? Or was it a little bit of both?
It was a little bit of all that. And because I always can say that even as a kid, I realized I was different. You know, like I always had a different perspective. Yeah. And even as a young kid, I had like responsibility and stuff like that. So I always just lived differently. And then it got to the point where I was like, man, why do I not have satisfaction in the corporate world? And I'm like young, making decent money. Like, why I still feel this emptiness? Basically, is what it is in retrospect. I didn't know that at the time, but I realized that. And I was like, man, what is it? So it was like, man, maybe I need to like, you know, look. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I was gonna look. And it landed me in the midst of people that were entrepreneurs, that were doing things, that were doing different types of things, that were living differently. Like I said, like superstars, they live differently too. But there's different kind of people that can live like superstars without the, you know, the attention. So they can do what they want, you know, they have ultimate freedom, if you may. And I realized I started getting around people like that. And it's like, oh wow, like this is kind of cool. Like, okay, I get it, but I wanted to pick out of it what I wanted out of it. You know what I mean? Because I could,
Sure.
you know, I have my own level of discernment. You know, because I grew up like a true, like I'm literally from the South. Like we were in church every freaking day, man.
Yes.
You know, like that's what it was, and that's all we knew. And not until I started like playing sports, I was like, oh mom, I got practice. You know, I got a game. You know, that type of stuff. So I gotta have started my own life, right?
Right.
And then it's like you get to kind of have like a balance of the best of both worlds. You can see what's going on where you should be versus what's out here.
That's awesome that you start getting into that atmosphere with those people that have that type of influence, and it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your first reaction to that is to pass that on to other people.
Oh, right away, because I was like, man, if this can change because I already saw that's my, again, a gift and a curse. I have this ability to, once I see something, I can pretty much already see it through, if it makes sense and it's aligned. It's like everything is about almost like athletes again in a play.
So you're really great at reverse engineering.
Oh yeah, and now it just works faster, and to the point where I can't explain it to people.
That's
Like I just respond to it, and I know how to just navigate.
That's
through
really
it.
awesome.
It's like
it takes me 2 days to reverse engineer something.
like I said, it's a gift and a curse, right? It's the gift because I get to maneuver what I want to do, but you know, as you start to incorporate people into your life and stuff like that, it's like you have to incorporate the other people, you know, that type of thing. So that's why I say it's a gift and a curse.
Yep.
It's I've been able to like do a lot of things earlier than most people can in circumstances that most people probably couldn't. But it was like, oh, okay. It's almost like what people say it was like designed for you. That's kind of what it was, just timing wise, you know what I mean? Like there aren't a lot of, you know, young executives that look like me. And I know that because I'm in the meetings. I do a scan around the meeting. You know what I mean? Like every meeting I'm in, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But it's cool though because I get to get an experience that a lot of people don't get to get, and I get to kind of expose everyone to a different, perspective of something that they may have thought before.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool, because I'm literally from like South St. Pete. I just speak proper English, you know what I mean? Just because that's just what my mom was, she like made us like I'm really from South St. Pete. So it's like, but it's cool though. I love it, man. Like I literally get to see it all. Like I'm comfortable everywhere. So just
you are you like it, it's euphoric. No amount of commas in a bank account can like ever weigh to that. It's like so cool, like just being there, like, oh, I'm just around here, it's like and just in the few times that I've met you, I can see that where you'll, no matter what group that you're in, you always find something relatable and you always strike up a great conversation that leads to something that group wants to talk about. Right?
Yeah, just relevance, man. I'm a value add person.
Yes.
Like whatever I do, that's why like it's so cool in the corporate world. Whereas like, most people are like, oh man, you're an entrepreneur. How can you be in the corporate world? I was like, you don't understand the situation I have where I get to work around like basically a bunch of geniuses and we get to figure things out, stuff like that. And I get to learn from them because they've been doing this for 200 years. Like no matter how successful I am, I have not been in business for 200 years. No, I haven't been alive for 200 years.
Right.
So there's something to learn from that. And just if you have that little bit of humbleness, I feel it does something, and you open that gate and then you get to magnify what your experience is there. So everything I do is like amplified, or at least I try to make it amplified. I
think you're 100% right on the humble portion, is that if you are humble, and therefore you should be more receptive. And
that's a great word to describe it. That's what it is.
People love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about their ideas. And if they find somebody who's receptive and they get along with it, then they're more apt to share those
Absolutely.
ideas.
Let alone you start feeding into it. Because I'm a creative mind.
Yep.
I am very left brain, logical, sequential, and stuff like that. But I do have a creative side to me. So someone catch me in the right mood, and it's like, oh yeah, let's, I literally have people that, and it's funny too, because they'll come right here in this office, man, when we do our mixers, and fast forward a few months later, it's like, that idea we were joking about at the bar?
It's done.
It's like, hey, let me send you this link, that type of thing. So it's kind of, and I realize that's what I'm here for.
Right.
I'm here to spark. I'm here to bring people together, because what it is, I realized, because I started networking I was 19. I mean, I've really been doing it before then, but 19 is when I had my first business. I've created this network of resources, good resources, that necessarily I don't need at the moment, but other people do. So really, that's why I started doing the networking events. I was like, you know what? Let me just because most people are like, oh, these are my resources. I'm like, hey, this is Jacob, this is Bobby, you guys do whatever you want to do, because it doesn't impact me, and I'm actually cool with just bringing you guys together. I don't look for anything, but because I know it comes back in different forms. I know that for a fact.
Yeah,
like I said, 7 years. You call it karma. People call it whatever they want.
Yeah,
you know how everyone gets caught.
Yep.
I just know it works.
Yep.
That's all I know, and that's again part of the new era thinking. Your mindset, what you think about, what you do, what actions you have. Those are the types of things that I focus on. It's the business for sure.
Yeah.
But business is ran by people, and I think I always try to revert that back to people, because a CEO is still a person. He still has 100%. A family, still has to use a restroom, still has to bathe, still has to brush your teeth. Yep. It's like you do all that stuff, and it just, like you was talking about, the humbleness, the receptiveness. I feel like if you're really trying to be successful in it, you have that balance. That's awesome. That's what I feel.
So let's go on to new era thinking and what your goals are with that company, what it does specifically, and I'd also like for you to talk about that industry as a whole, because I know that the personal development and coaching industry has a lot of fly by night.
It's very saturated now.
I was going to say that, but you said it.
Yeah, I'm all right with transparency.
Yeah,
it's extremely
saturated, and it's saturated with a lot of
People that aren't going to be there for like another year or two.
Exactly.
I know that for sure, and I don't worry about those people. Just so you know, but they're there. Yep. You know, so New Era Thinking.
New Era Thinking.
Yep.
And what somebody who's looking to somebody's looking for a service in the personal development and life coaching area. Not necessarily what separates you from everybody else. If you want to talk about that, it's great. But what they should look for and what they should look out for.
Okay. All right. So New Era Thinking, as I may have mentioned, positive events, one-on-one coaching. The events are inspirational workshops. We do like Dreamers Paradise. We have one coming up actually in March.
What's Dreamers Paradise?
So
for our listeners.
Yeah, Dreamers Paradise is something that I've joined with my buddy Duvet Weaver. He's an author, speaker, and what we both decided is like, hey, you know what? We're like yin and yang. He's very energetic and stuff like that. Like very I would say characteristic, if you may. And we're like, how do we help people take these dreams into reality? So we started this series of things where we have other speakers, because it goes back to me being okay with sharing the stage type of thing, because actually I feel like I'm here to bring the stage, not necessarily be on the stage. So we focused on like bringing people that can bring knowledge to help people like bring whatever that thing is in them out. So most of the people we get do have businesses, small businesses specifically, but we've got some people that come faithfully that don't even have a business. They just love the information, because like I talked about, I hit on like the personal development and stuff like that. Our networking events, again, like we talked about a little bit earlier, it's bringing my resources and other people's, like-minded people, positive, that also want to like connect with good people in the area or that are visiting sometimes. They come in here, they can basically connect with each other and do business. Community events, because I'm right here from South St. Pete, so I try to focus on that type of stuff. In the past, we've done like financial literacy for families. I'm very heavily involved in the MLK Parade, the Martin Luther King Parade, New Deal St. Pete. Like I support those types of things. I'm on the board of the Future Business Leaders of America at my old alma mater, Dixie Hollins. So it's like I just try to find like ways to like, this is what New Era is. Like we're just gonna gradually like kind of pour into these types of things. And from a coaching perspective, it's the small businesses. There's some people that are just getting started or have been in business that we hope help just kind of behind the scenes type of thing, with strategy, what's going on in the marketplace. I obviously, because I'm privy to a lot of that stuff from a big business perspective, obviously I have to be mindful about what I can and can't share, but industry type knowledge type stuff, right? I bring it because I'm in those meetings, we're talking about it. Again, the Robin Hood, right? Just kind of bringing that stuff. So I found this way of kind of doing that. So that way, while I'm in the corporate world, still doing that, I'll do that until, whenever I decide to retire, 10, 20 years, whatever the case is, and I'm still fairly young. I still got some time and I still feel like I'm learning. So that in itself entices me.
So if New Era Thinking needs your whole attention, you're still gonna try and stay in the corporate world?
Yeah, no, I have I do. And I, when I got there, it was like I had to think of it like almost like an athletic contract, because I was independent when I got there. I had already had everything going. I knew how to get contracts, but I had this level, again, discernment of like recognizing what's there in at stake. And after I got out of myself, like, oh, I ain't going to corporate world. It's like, you know what, this is actually a great situation. This is a good company, good people, that type of stuff. And I was like, so what does that mean to my initial vision? And it was like, you know what, this actually makes sense to do this and just alter it just a little bit. And I gotta say, even stuff like this where I don't know if I would have been in the aptitude to do it if I hadn't set things up a few years ago, like to the point where I do the business part-time. Part-time is most evenings and weekends. Right. When I can do it, you know what I mean? So it's like, so it's kind of cool just to kind of see, like I've learned to kind of ride with the flow too of what the trends are and what people need. Because again, my needs are going to be different than other people's, because I rely on delayed gratification like you talked about earlier. And most people are instant. Yes. So I have to be available, but at the same time, on my, kind of what I'm working on, because I know my goals are different.
Thing I do want to say to our listeners and viewers, you can tell this guy is true blue, because he mentioned something earlier, and I just wanted to point at it. He said, I'm not too much about being on the stage. I just like to bring the stage. And I think that's a huge difference between most, we'll say, life coaches or quote, personal development coaches out there. Is a lot of that area seems to be filled with people who just want the stage. But Jason over here, he's all for just bringing the stage and putting other people on it. And what I'd like to go into next is just a little bit about what the average person should look for and should look out for when they're looking for a personal development or a life coaching company.
Absolutely. So I would start with, make sure that person really cares, and you can't tell that by their marketing material. It's really in their interaction and how your experience is when you start to work with that person, or that company for that matter. If they're not asking you immediately, what are the things you're trying to work on, what are your goals, that's a telltale sign.
Okay.
Also, once you start to interact with them, if they don't kind of turn the tables on you to make you think about what is it that you want again, those are the things. Because what it is, it's all tailored to you. They're supposed to be there to help you reach your goal. So if they're trying to push their own agenda, that's usually a telltale sign. Yeah, you can kind of tell that people are kind of in it for just whatever. We were talking a little bit earlier about the saturation of the coaching market.
Yes.
It's real. Yeah. It's real. A lot of people, a few years ago weren't in that, and that's fine. It's good. At the end of the day, I think the concept of it, let's help as many people as we can.
Yes.
The issue that I've seen is that a lot of people haven't been through enough experience to really guide people through life experiences.
Okay. I can definitely see that as well.
I've kind of seen that, and you can kind of tell when you talk to people.
So even if they want to help people, they might have that want and drive. It's just at that point, it's just a lack of maybe life experience or business experience.
Agreed. Okay. It's like going to a mechanic that's, hey, this is his first tire he's ever changed,
Yep.
Nothing wrong with it, but that's just what it is. He's just not as, veteran as the other person, or seasoned as we use in the corporate world.
Yep.
And if you're all right, we can go kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what this is, and walk us through this.
So what I've learned just in my experience of many workshops, trainings, and all this stuff is that with the business of, and I'm talking about the industry of personal development, anyone who's in personal development will pretty much agree with most of this. They might have their own take on it, but there's always phases of it, right?
Sure.
And one thing that I can say that helped me as I was starting my phase, phases.
So our viewers can see.
Yep. Was finding out where you are. There's essentially, in my mind, and I learned this from other types of coaching sessions and seminars, there's 5 phases of where you are. You're either born, crawl, walk, you're running or jogging, or you're sprinting. What I mean by that is, being born is basically when you first start this process and you're like, okay, what do I want to do? What are the things, where do I want to be? Do I feel like I should be here? And you're just kind of there. Those things, if you may, aren't there. You're not
at the self-awareness process.
Exactly. You started the process, right? And then once you've kind of identified what those things are, you start to kind of crawl into those things. Okay, I do want to be around more real estate investors or people that are in business, professional people. You start, and you're still uncomfortable,
right?
But you're crawling, right?
So we have the born, which is in my mind, the self-awareness. We have the crawl, which is slowly inserting yourself into that industry that you are passionate about or interested in.
Yep, okay. Absolutely. And after a while, you start to get used to it. You're no longer a newbie. Right. You've done a couple deals, you've had a couple interactions with clients, those types of things. So you're starting to kind of get into it. And it's an interesting thing that happens in this phase where you kind of find your niche.
Okay. The riches are in the niches.
Literally.
Yep.
And as you imagine, there's only 3 to 10% people that tap into that. Most people just kind of do it and they run with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. You still get a good living. But for the 3 to 10%, pay attention to that, because that's a big thing. Because if you do it right and you find your niche, you can start running and jogging.
And so what am I doing at the run jog month?
The run jog is, I'll just put it in for today's world. That's when your social media accounts are starting to blow up. You're getting more likes, you're getting more views organically, not just paying.
Yep, exactly.
Just kind of organically. You're starting to you feel more comfortable, you feel more confident in it. That's really like the big thing, because people can feel that type of thing, and you really found like a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, you know what, this works. And we literally talk to ourselves like that. We might not admit it, but we talk to ourselves like that.
100%.
And then after that, you start sprinting. That's when those are the people that you watch come from, nothing to something. Those are the overnight stars, even though they've been putting in work for 10 years or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. They start sprinting. And I say all this to say that everybody right now is in one of these phases, no matter where you are. You're either just starting in a new career, you're either, starting to get your feet wet in it. You've either kind of been doing it for a little bit, you kind of know what you're doing. You really, you're kind of like, you know what, I got this thing, I'm running with it. Or you're like, you know what, I'm a star at this. And I think when people think about that from a personal development perspective, it helps you kind of just be able to focus on the things that you need to focus on.
Where do you think most people have the hardest transition?
I would say, so logically here, the crawl to walk, because they don't feel confident that they can really do that, and they're in
like the initial execution, like we were talking about.
Exactly. Like they're scared to, like, man, they can do it and they're tiptoeing it, but they're scared to do it. But also I would say this, from these two phases, the jog / sprint, I don't think people realize how good they get so quickly.
Really, you think people underestimate how good they
absolutely.
are? Okay.
They come into the office like, I was thinking about doing this. It's like, man, you can do this, this, and this. I can see it. You've already told me you have the credentials to do it. It's just that it's hard for people to connect those dots, because we're emotional creatures by nature.
Yeah.
But that's why like my friends joke about me being cerebral. Like I'm more logical than I am emotional. So I don't have the same type of, I would say, cloudiness of thoughts.
See, I was going to replace that where I was thinking of that all through this interview as you are logical, but for most logical people, unlike you don't get bogged down in the details. You don't succumb to analysis paralysis. I see a lot of logical
absolutely.
people do.
They get stuck in that phase.
I get stuck.
Yeah.
I think we all have a little bit of hesitancy especially when going into a brand new area.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I used to be really bad at analysis paralysis. I used to want to know the entire industry before I would want to do anything. But you seem to be really great about that.
It's I appreciate it, but it definitely wasn't overnight. It was like, because just like anyone, like I have my thoughts and my fears, and it's like, oh man, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't, like, man, what if this happens?
Yep.
But you just have to kind of trust your process.
Sure.
And that's why, like, going back to like, what's your why? What are you here for? What do you stand for? And then when you start making sure that you do more and more things that align with that. Like, once I realized it was people for me, I was like, so I don't care how many other people do networking events, I'm going to do networking events, because I know that mine are going to be different. I'm going to bring people together. And I just kind of ran with it.
So I want to go into a little bit of the numbers as we wrap up here. What can a business or an individual expect to pay? And you don't have to give your specific pricing, but just in the market for personal coaching one-on-one, or maybe bringing a coach into their business to help get the ball rolling in some things.
Absolutely. So we have, this is right on our site too.
Okay.
So we do what I wanted to do, again, because of where I come from. I wanted to have my dollar menu type option, right?
Yep.
So we do like a $20 special where it's just like, hey, if you just want to talk about some ideas, also one for 30 minutes, I don't mind meeting people. I usually do those on Wednesdays and some Fridays, or Saturdays. 30 minutes, they kind of, this will come in. I won't send like a write-up and a whole project plan and things of that nature, but they can do that for $20. That's just people that just want to just sit down and talk.
It's $20 to be in front of somebody that you can share how big you want your goal to be, and to have that support that alone is priceless, because most people, when, at least in my opinion, they have a hard time sharing how big of a goal they want.
That's true.
because of their environment.
Absolutely.
So for it to cost $20, for it to cost less than a tank of gas,
Right.
in most cases, to be able to just be in an environment it's fantastic.
And
But go on.
that's kind of like my like I say, my dollar menu, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of whatever. And then some people that are ready, we do the silver package, which is $100 a month.
Okay.
And they get, we meet 2 meetings face to face, and they get like a personalized, customized project plan of like.
Wow,
And what I try to do is
Yeah.
not try to, but what I do is I realize when I got into the business, right, where there's a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
Everyone does like this. Hey, here's this 20-page thing you need to do. I'm like, hey, here's the 5 to 10 things you need to do.
Yes.
And I focused on that.
Yep.
And I just ran with it. The next phase up from that is the gold package. That's $500 a month. Those are the people that are like, hey, I'm getting ready to launch this business, and I need someone to meet with me on a weekly basis. And help me map out this plan of how I want to launch this, that type of thing. And then the other thing is the $1,000. That's a lifestyle design, basically. And that's people like, hey, you know what? Over the next 45 to 90 days, I really want to change my life. Those are the people that kind of, there's those aha moments in life, man, where you're just like, hey, you know what? I'm ready to change. I'm so serious. Like, I want to reprogram my mind.
Sure.
I want to, kind of alter my habits and stuff like that. So it's like, all right, if you're serious, let's be transparent. I'll share my stuff. You share your stuff. Let's get it done. And here's the things we need to do. And then we'll look back 30, 45 days and see how we need to do that.
So for that package, it's a flat $1,000 for
Yep.
that 45
Yep.
or 90 day
Yeah,
plan.
exactly. We'll meet 4 to 6 times. Of course,
Sure.
having like, meetups and stuff like that. So I just wanted to find stuff that like made sense, right?
Sure.
And that's kind of what I was doing. And then I realized some people don't need to have that type of regimen. So that's why I do the events.
Yes.
So the inspiration workshop, hey, you want to do like a few hours or an hour of concentrated work? Here's this. If you just want to meet people that are like-minded, be around some positive people, that's what a lot of people like.
And how much to get into just one of those events?
Those are $20, and we usually include your first drink and appetizers.
Oh,
I'm from the South, man, so it's like we make sure
Come
you're good.
and drink and eat.
Right in here, man. People have a great time. You know what I mean? And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like good environment, stuff like that. So that's, again, I found creative ways to use my gifts.
That's awesome, man.
That's literally what I did. So it feels good, man. I love, we connected, just from being at, one of the events, and
Yeah.
I'm, a part of it, but not a part of it, that type of thing. I'm very independent, but it was like I get to connect with people like that. And that's literally a prime example of what I'm talking about with networking.
Yes. Yeah.
We didn't know each other from, like, we met that day.
Yeah, we met that day. Yep. I was instantly drawn to Jason, and we had, we probably talked for about 10 minutes before the meeting started. And I just picked his brain because there's just something about him. There's this aura of success surrounding him. And not just from a financial standpoint, but just from a personal standpoint as well. But again, thank you for coming on, and thank you for having us in this office. And what I'd like to do is leave it to you. Let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you, and just a send-off for New Era Thinking Group LLC.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
So my personal is Jason Bryant. If you're on Instagram, Jason Bryant PMP. The business and LinkedIn, things of that nature, are New Era Thinking. And my slogan that I always talk about is new eras call for new thinking. All right. Hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks, guys. You've listened to the Blue Collar Success Podcast, the top podcast dedicated to local business and industry. Again, my name's Jacob Lewis, and my guest tonight was Jason Bryant. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe at our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The links to the description the links to everything are in the description below. And then you can also find Jason's information in the description as well. Thanks, guys.